All right. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, Renee. What's
I'm
happening today?
I'm excited about
I
today.
am too. Hey, everybody. Again, we skipped that part,
I
but
know we do it all
I'm
the
Bruce.
time.
This is Renee, and we are still here. Welcome to our podcast, everyone. So, Renee, tell me why you're so excited today.
Well, do you want to say?
Other than you get to do a podcast
I
with
know.
me.
I'm always excited about that. I'm excited about our guest today. We heard about him. We heard a little bit, like a little snippet of his story when we were at Angela Stanton King's live studio audience for her show. I'm just asking, or the Ask Show.
The Ask show. Yeah. ASK.
He was he was a guest on there, and just a little bit that I got to hear, we were like, we have got to have him on our podcast. So I feel like you should tell everyone who's our guest and who's our guest on it,
Yeah,
Bruce.
we have Stet Frazier with us, everybody. I will not get into Stet's story. I'll let you divulge that information. But what I thought was so cool with you is that when I saw you on stage with her, Angela Stanton King, I could see just your energy and your happiness in your eyes and your smile. And I know it sounds kind of maybe weird from me to you, but it was compelling. And I was like, this guy really, I just want to know more about him and kind of figure out how he is in this place, knowing your story. So again, just welcome. Thanks for joining us here.
And you didn't say who it was, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you did.
Stet Frazier.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. You did. All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you both for giving me the opportunity to be on your podcast. I'm grateful and I'm honored to be here with you today. Yes, my story is a story that I share because I feel particularly what's going on in the African American community, for me being a former drug dealer, dealing drugs, and young men was looking up to me. I was gone for 25 years. First and foremost, excuse me, I was born and raised in Camilla, Georgia. I was raised in the household with 5 other siblings. My brothers and sisters all have college degrees. They're in corporate America, or they principals or something. I will be considered like the black sheep. I'm the one that literally took the chances, and I don't make excuses for it. Did what I felt I wanted to do, and I had to pay a dear price for it. I was the drug dealer in Michigan area, and in 1994, the federal government indicted me. Although I was a first-time nonviolent offender, I didn't have a record, but and I was not aware of the crack cocaine disparity that exists, and that sentence African Americans 100 times more harsh than those with powder cocaine. And like I share with the young people when I go into the schools, even though I was not aware of that disparity, the point is I was a drug dealer. And so, in being that, even though they got case law that say ignorance to the law ain't no excuse. So although I was ignorant to the law, there was no excuse. That the point is that I was a drug dealer. I was a first-time nonviolent offender, and I received life imprisonment. And in the federal system, life in prison means that you die. If nothing happens, you die. You don't do 35 or 40 years. In 1986, the federal sentencing guideline that came about under the Anti-Drug Abuse Act abolished federal parole. So if you receive life in federal prison, that is life. And I was sentenced to life in 1995. I was incarcerated in 94. And although I was a first-time nonviolent offender, that law required me, according to me being considered as a leader, me testifying in my own case. They came back to charge me with perjury, because once the jury find you guilty, then that means they considered that you lied in the court. And then those was enhancements that required me to receive life. And back then, a federal judge's hands was binding. It wasn't the fight of whether he wanted to give you life or not. The federal sentencing guideline are tables that everyone, no matter if you was Michael Vick, you was Martha Stewart, whoever, when you're in the federal system, those guidelines apply to you. It's not like the state system or the state of Georgia, the state of Florida. They have certain laws that the state of Georgia, state of Florida, with the federal government, everything you equal. And it applies to all equal. And so I received a life sentence. I was in federal prison for 25 years. Throughout my time of being incarcerated, I would set up programs and I constantly worked. In fact, when the judge granted me immediate release in 1995, he called my record impeccable. And he called it impeccable because I was one that was doing fundraisers for society, helping. I was setting up programs like the Quality of Life that dealt with self-development, self-analysis, self-correction. And I would work with young people because I didn't have a bitter spirit that I was saying, okay, because I don't have a life, I have a life sentence. I wanted the young people to go out better than what they came in because I came in at 26 years of age. And so I would work with them, and that was my record. You know, like I tell people, I made the best of my stay. I never got caught up in learning how to play chess, learning how to play dominoes. All I did was work and try to better my life, that when I returned back to society, I wouldn't be one that would be in the recidivist state that comes back and make excuses. I don't believe in excuses. I never made excuses when I was incarcerated. I just wanted to make the best of my stay because I was willing to pay the price of me being a drug dealer. And by the grace of God, President Donald Trump in 2018, what he did was something that no other president did. In fact, President Trump is a person that they really don't share everything that's really going on in the federal system is, and the changes that's going about is based on President Donald Trump. And he took President Obama's bill that removed the crack cocaine disparity from being 100 to 1, meaning they would sentence African Americans 100 times more harsh than those with powder cocaine. When President Obama passed this bill August 3rd, 2010, he did not include those of us that was already in federal prison. Had he included us, I would have walked out of prison in 2010, but he didn't include those of us. President Donald Trump took President Obama's bill and made it to apply to those of us that was already incarcerated, meaning that I got time served because I wouldn't have received the life sentence on the 18-to-1 ratio. And when he applied it to those cases, I received a letter from the judge saying that I was probably qualified. And it was clear that I was most likely going to be released. So prior to me getting released, I had sent the judge a letter, and I sent a letter to the lawyer. And this letter had requested to the judge, should he grant me immediate release, I would ask him to stay in federal prison 10 additional days. And I said to the judge that I don't want you to believe that I'm crazy or insane. I said, but I do programs in here. I said I would like to wrap the programs up. And I'm asking for 10 additional days should you grant me immediate release. Well, that was the only thing that the federal government agreed to. They told the judge that I should stay in prison 10 more days. And the judge granted me immediate release July 24. And he granted the 10 additional days, which required me to be released August 3rd. But because August 3rd, 2019 fell on a Saturday, I was released August 2nd, 2019. And I'm grateful for President Donald Trump because had not just me, it's thousands of us. When I say thousands, it's thousands. In fact, a few months ago, a few thousands walked out of prison again. And all this is due to President Donald Trump that they don't share with society. No other president since the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act came about has did sentencing reform and prison reform better than Donald Trump. Wow. And that's something that they keep down in society. They don't know. We know. And like I tell them, I'm grateful to God that President Trump was in the position because it gave me another chance at life, you know, and gave thousands more another chance at life and everything.
Yeah.
Well, so what do you got out, you got another chance at life. Like, what are you doing now? Like, what's your life look like today?
Well, my life look like today, I go in schools that since they didn't release the restriction on COVID, I'm about to start by going and in fact, I'll be going to Augusta, Georgia, probably for the next 2 to 3 weeks to an alternative school to speak to some young guys, young men, young teenagers that's been troubled. And I start by going into schools. I work the Boys and Girls Clubs. I help participate in it's called it's law enforcement in the Mitchell County area. Operation Turnaround. And Operation Turnaround is dealing with gang affiliation, drugs, and I speak and help work with those, the law enforcement as well, to try to help young men. And I go into schools. As for my business, I'm an independent contractor, and I'm an independent contractor where I get secure contracts that's dealing with these corporations building solar fields throughout the United States.
Wow.
Right now, I have in fact, while we're talking, I just won a second contract, and this contract is a 5-year contract, and these contracts are mega dollars.
Yeah, good.
And I'm in the second year of my first contract. I'm starting the second year of my first contract, and that's a 5-year contract. And by my work and everything that I was able to do with the first job and contract, the other company, they reached out to me. And so when I bid against these corporations that money extend much further than mine, well, I'm on the ground and I'm able to quote certain language, and I got expertise in certain things that I learned by actually being in trial and error on the ground. So I just won a second contract yesterday, and and all of it is in the Mitch County area, and these are huge corporations that I'm winning these contracts with. So this contract that I won, it'll secure me another 5-year deal, and
That's awesome.
the contracts are very lucrative. They're very beneficial.
Yeah.
Very lucrative.
So are those all just in Georgia, or are they all nationwide?
Everywhere. They all throughout the United States. It's just that Georgia, my area, I put in bids like it's another area. I'll be putting in one again, and my business is constantly expanding. And I bring more of my family members actually in there to work with me. And I have at the moment I have probably 15 employees.
Cool.
That's awesome.
And
so these are actually solar fields, like
these are solar fields. I maintain and manage what they call vegetation. Vegetation is the grass. Yeah. I maintain it, and then also whatever needs going on, the civil work with your roads, with your fences, I take care of all that. If some come up, I take care. My business take care of all that as well.
Cool.
Yeah, that's so awesome. There's so much I want to unpack in what you said. There's like multiple parts. There's the part of like your spirit of who you are, of I mean, you very well could have been like, this is terrible, I got wronged. But something in you was like, you never, like, you saw that, you had hope, and you never gave up.
That's what Judge Stanford actually said about you, right? You're an example of hope.
Yes, he was the example of hope, and prison saved my life. I tried to stop selling drugs myself, probably about 3 times. I was not able. It's like an addiction. You get acquainted with the money, and so prison saved my life. I'm sure of that. I'm 100% sure I would not be here today had I not been in prison. So I'm grateful to God that He allowed me to have prison before death. To give me a chance to get my life together. And so I always try to pay back to society by doing things in prison to help others, and like I would tell the young guys, I say, my mother, when I was on the street, my mother would be worried about me at night, whether she was going to get that call, I've been killed, or this happened. I said, I don't want your mother to worry about that when you go back. So I would try to work with the young guys, and try to help them to go out better than what they came in, and I never complained. No one has ever been seeing me locked up, ever heard me complain once, because I realized that what I did, I accept the responsibility that I was a drug dealer. Nobody forced me to do it. It wasn't the fact that I received the life sentence. The point is, when you get in that courtroom, you done something wrong, you got to be man enough to take the penalty that comes with that. And I was willing to take that penalty to what came with it. And I made the best of it, and God blessed me to come out to be a better person.
Yeah. So I have a question for you.
I was just gonna, just real quick, do you have children? We didn't discuss like family and children. So tell everyone, like, you have a family. And
yes, I have 8 children. 8 children, 5 different mothers. And when you're in the drug game and you young, and you the ego and the arrogance that comes with that, you don't see marriage, you don't see responsibility, you just see I'm out here enjoying this life. And so I was blessed to have 8 children. My youngest son was born 2 months after I got locked up. And so he was born when I got locked up. My older twin sons, they were 7 years old when I got locked up, but every one of them We stayed in communication, and I have a beautiful relationship with my children. In fact, when I walked out of prison, that was my goal, to get acquainted with my children. They used to come see me, get acquainted with my children and set my business up. I wouldn't take a date from no women. I didn't deal with no woman. I would tell everybody, I haven't been with a woman in 25 years. Y'all miss me with that. My children come first and set my business up. That was most important. It was not running to try to get with a woman and try to do that. And that was those were my two goals. And once I gave my children months, got my business going, then me and my daughter's mother and she used to come see me a lot. That's who I ended up dating, and we got married.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And our anniversary was February the 13th that just passed.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's beautiful.
That's great. Happy anniversary.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks.
cool.
All right, go ahead with yours.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So there was an interesting thing too, when you, back in 2010, where, you thought like, oh, okay, I'm going to be released based on the changes. I think it was 2010. And then you had this, you stayed in, you obviously didn't get released and stayed until your final release. How many guys in that period of time, like, is there one, I always look for like reasons why things happen in hindsight or retrospect. And I bet, just knowing you a little bit, is there's probably one or two or a whole handful of people that you touched in that period of time between 2010 that were significant, like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. Yes. I wish I could show y'all the different text messages from Messenger, from text messages. So many brothers I shared with my wife and my children. They just constantly bombard me with messages saying, Brother Stet, you really done what you say you was gonna do. Wow, man, I'm so proud, because they always heard me talk about getting out, doing my business and doing this. And I was such a positive person that I'm grateful that they was able to draw strength for me, because I get so many messages now, and the young men that's out, they call me, they thank me, they say, man, one of them told me about a month ago, he said, he called me, and I haven't talked to him in over a year. And he said, I was trying to explain to some individuals about you. He said, it's hard to explain to you. He said, because you that same person, you was never angry. We draw strength from you. You admonished us. One thing about me in the system, I was highly respected, but I didn't take sides with nobody incarcerated, and I didn't take sides with staff. I'm gonna be a balanced person. I didn't take side because you was a Black person. I didn't take side because you was a white person. I strive to do what's right. If my child is wrong and there's a white child is right, I'm gonna admonish my child, and I'm not gonna take the sides, because when you talk about justice and truth, it don't have a color.
Right.
So that's the example I always strive to give since a young boy in the system. And only God could help me to be that way, because I wasn't angry, I wasn't bitter. I was just grateful that I still had life. I was grateful, and I was very grateful to God. And when you grateful to God, you don't sit around groping and mumbling and complaining. While you in that situation, I learned in life, don't worry about the things that I don't have the ability to change. Worry about that what you have the ability to change, and that's yourself. And so we can all say what we won't do in life, but if you don't prepare yourself and work on yourself and develop yourself, then we'll fall victim back to what we say we will not do again. And I was not going to be that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I know.
How did you, getting into like your quality of life class, and where you said self-analysis, self-examination, and self-correction, were, I guess, the kind of the keystones that you taught people. Did you just come up with that yourself, like invent that program and say, I want to start teaching, these new guys coming in here? Like, how did that evolve?
Well, no, I didn't come up with that program myself. That program was a program that I went through of being in the Nation of Islam. And it was a program that forced us to deal with yourself. Stop blaming others. Right. Deal with yourself first and foremost. And that was the program: self-analysis, self-examination, self-correction. And I applied that to my life. And it made me a man. Like I tell people, a male is different from a man. I say, you have many males. I say, but a man's self-responsibility, a man stand on integrity, a man stand on truth. A man don't make excuses, and it was something that I never accepted from people because I don't make it. And, you strive to be the example. And I always want to be an example, like in society right now. I strive to be an example, and for others. They showed it. I wrote Judge Stafford coming up to my first year of being out. And I wrote him and I say, Judge, I shared with you that I will give you my update. I sent him where I had paid my taxes. I sent him and showed how much I had made the first year, which I can share I had made. My first year, I made over 200 some thousand. And I showed him I paid taxes and I thanked him again. And I said to Judge Stafford, I say, Judge, I want to be a person that the system can look at and say, we gave him a chance. I say, somebody else deserve a chance. I can't say who it is, Judge. I say, but I'm a proven example that somebody else deserve a chance. I said, and all you need is one to show the potential. I say, and I strive to be that one. I say, I want to thank you again. I say, I was very defiant. I apologize many times. I say, but I really thank you. I say, because you didn't have to do this. I say, I'm grateful to you. And I want to just thank you again. This is my 1 year anniversary of being out. After that, Judge Stafford responded and he said, as long as Mr. Frazier continue on his path, I'm gonna do an early termination of a supervised release. And he ended up terminating my supervised release.
Wow.
Wow. That's so awesome.
And I mean, I don't know how often this happens, but he was the sentencing judge, wasn't he? Like,
yes.
And
he's
so
he's the one witnessed me cutting the food, talking noise, very defiant, lying to the court saying I didn't sell drugs, and then told the judge back in 1995, you just a bigger part of the conspiracy as the government. So he witnessed a person that was very crazy in that courtroom. And so he himself saw the change in me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Full circle for
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Huh?
for sure. The other part, we were talking just about who you are and your outlook of being hopeful and never giving up. But the other part for me is, I've never been into really politics and looking at things, and, I didn't know any of this. And when I even just, the little bit that I heard, at the Angela Stanton show, I went home and I just started researching more about you and that. And I would said to Bruce, I was like, my gosh, this is so wrong. Like, this doesn't make sense. And I think that, it's important too, for that part. I think there's a lot of people they don't really know what's going on. And I think it's important to know, like, just the whole process with that, I think is important. So I think for two parts of, taking responsibility and doing that, but also just being aware of what the laws are and how it works. And, maybe things need to be looked at to be done differently, because of that's a pretty extreme to be life in prison for that.
Well, I think it take more voices like myself to come out, but first come out and try to raise your voice to at least make it aware. Not that we're saying that a person shouldn't be punished for his crime. If you do the crime, you should be punished, but make the punishment fit the crime. My sentence was more than a person that murdered someone, more than a person that destroyed life, which be a pedophile or rapist. I got more time than them. I sat in prison 25 years, but I didn't complain about it because I've told people like this. My life sentence to me was a package. Maybe if I would have had 10 years, I wouldn't have done better.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Maybe if I would have had, but because I didn't have a date and there was no hope for me, I feel that I needed whatever God permitted me to get.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a package. I can't say, God, I'm grateful for my growth and development, but the life sentence is kind of wrong. It was a package. I accepted it all. So, and I would always tell individuals, stop complaining, because if you complain to him when you get in society and get comfortable, you're going to go to complaining again.
Mm-hmm.
that was something that I always stuck to. And a lot of people don't come out and try to become a voice. They forget. I witnessed so many that would say, oh, I'm gonna go home and do this, but they never raised their voice to anything. And we would just still sit there. And, you know, when I was turned down by President Obama for clemency, and I just knew I was getting clemency in 2016 because I qualified. It was 6 criteria you had to meet. I met every one of them exceedingly. And so I'm prepared to go home. And literally, I was told that I was going to be released. I went to getting all my material away. You know, I went to getting my stuff away. That was the biggest shock I got. And when the case manager walked to the door and handed me my paper and said I was denied executive clemency, I screamed on him. He got scared. I say, what? He said, oh, Mr. Frazier, hold it. I'm just getting the paper. But it shocked me. That was one of the biggest, because I was prepared to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so angry. At that point, that I got angry that I now wanted to challenge the system. And how did I do it? My anger didn't consume me where I did outbursts or try to overthrow the system. No, what I did was I said, okay, I'm not getting nowhere as an individual. I say, what I'm going to do, as a matter of fact, I got to get credit where credit is due. Mr. Conker, he was an officer. He was a Caucasian officer. Me and him still communicate today. He told me, and they would always ask me, the staff member always was concerned about me. They said, man, ain't nothing for you. And Mr. Conker was Frazier, don't give up. I said, Mr. Conker, ain't nothing I can do. I'm under the crack cocaine despair, but at least put something in. He was one telling me to put something in when the judge got ready to sentence me. I was defiant and wouldn't do it. And he's the one who told me, go petition Congress. I said, what you mean, Mr. Conker? And this was 2016. He said, I know somebody that petitioned Congress. Go research it. I went to the legal library and I researched, and that's when I came across the Native American tribes, that when the government had laws that targeted them, they all came together as one unified force and petitioned Congress. And from that petition in Congress, because they could show that the laws targeted them as a people, the Indian Claim Commission Act came about in 1948. So when I saw that, I went all the way back to a 1905 case, a Moore case. And I went there, and that's when I went to see SIS. SIS is a special investigative unit in the institution. And I talked to them and I told them that, look, I say, I can petition Congress as an individual, or I can petition Congress as a collective body. I say, as of right now, I'm gonna use this case. I wanna show y'all because I don't want y'all to come after me because I wanna give you heads up of what I'm about to do. I say, everybody under the crack cocaine disparity is my co-defendants now. And they said, what you mean? And I showed them. They said, that's what it say. I say, so I'm showing this because I'm going to be in all the federal prisons with an email asking brothers and sisters to join me. I was the injured party, and I asked them to join me by saying, because the government can't smear me. I don't have a record prior to coming in prison, and I have an outstanding record while I'm in prison. I say, so no matter what your case is, you got to come through me first. I say, y'all are the co-injured party. So a lot of them were saying, some of the guys at the prison said, man, Brother Frazier, they gonna classify you as a political prisoner. I say, bro, I'm already a political prisoner. They just haven't announced it. If you say I'm gonna die in here now, I'm finna give you hell dying. I say, either you gonna let me out or you gonna put me in ADX, but I'm gonna use my pen and paper and my voice. I will not sit quiet to this no longer. And I began petitioning Congress, and brothers, thousands joined me. And I was throughout the system sending emails, and thousands joined me. And I sent to hundreds of congressmen, senators. I was sending to all type of organizations. And then they went to doing interviews and stories. And I was starting to rattle and make noise. And I didn't sit quiet. And so when I walked out, that's the first thing I did when they put a camera in my face at the prison, United States Penitentiary, Atlanta. I brought up the crack cocaine disparity. Went to talk about me petitioning. And next thing I knew, I got a letter, probably had been out about 2 or 3 weeks. The prosecutor said, we peeling your case to put you back in prison. And I still wouldn't stop talking. I said, if God means for me to go back because I done got out here and making noise, you talking about gonna make noise if I go back. So I said, if I go back, I go back. I said, but I'm not gonna stop talking about this. And I kept going. And by the grace of God, I won the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And after I won, the cases went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in our favor also, and thousands more was released at that point.
Wow.
So they didn't like you very much.
No, but they didn't have no way to say, well, he's a threat to the community. You couldn't say that, but I'm not a drug dealer no more. I haven't done it harmed anyone.
What is the motivation? I mean, I think I know a little bit, but what is the motivation to say, well, we're going to appeal your case and put you back, try to get you back in?
They was trying to say that it should have been based on my conduct, not my statute, or not my indictment. When we was indicted back in 86 on all the way to 2000, they never put drug quantity as an element of the offense in the indictment. When we got the sentence, and the judge would get the sentence and then say, okay, we're gonna hold you accountable for 20 keys of crack cocaine. And none of this was ever brought to the jury, or none of this was ever in the trial like that. And what happened was, because I was indicted on the statute 21 USC 841, that's B1A, that means 50 grams or more crack cocaine. Or more mean that number
could be
can go
anything
as high as they want. But so when the 18-1 came, what President Trump made President Obama law retroactive, that 50 grams or more was no longer 10 to life. It was 5 years to 40 years. So what the prosecutors was arguing, say, oh, no, we got to go by the conduct. The conduct said that we held Mr. Frazier accountable for 25 keys of crack at sentencing. But that's the conduct. You had that. So the appeals court and the Supreme Court say, no, you got to go by the statute. The statute said 50 grams or more. So the prosecutor was trying to say, well, if the law would have been that, we would have said 280 grams or more. So he was trying to go in the future saying what they would have said. So they say, no, you can't do that. We got to go by what was in the statute. And that's what, so they ruled that the statute over Trump conduct. And the government was trying to hold us accountable for conduct when the courts ruled that the statute
based on statute. Yeah.
Yes.
So as far as why wouldn't they want to empty the prisons? I mean, what, if there's people in there.
Prison is not set to reform anybody, rehabilitate anyone. Prison is more like warehouses now. They actually warehouse you. Once they remove federal parole, there's a great input but no outlet. In the system, there is no rehabilitation. A person have to rehabilitate himself. There is no system that's set to rehabilitate you. It's a warehouse. And that's what prisons are for. You have prisons on President Clinton. The crime bill that came about, it was over 50, more than 50 federal prisons came about since President Clinton was in office. These prisons was they was coming up under President Clinton. So these prisons, if you build all these prisons, that means you under the calculation that somebody gonna fill these prisons up.
Yeah, I was looking at the graphs on that, and it was like, pretty normal. And then as soon as Reagan got in, it started to tick up, and then it really took off. And then back in that 90s, it was like boom.
Yes, the boom. It was prior to 1986, the federal system, I don't believe, had 20,000. It might have been 20.
I think it was below 50 for sure.
In the 90s, it went to hitting in the hundreds.
Yeah.
By 2000, it was near about 180,000. So the influx, and what brought it was the Anti-Drug Abuse Act. 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act that abolished federal parole. So once they established that, the prison was not for rehabilitation, they was for warehousing now.
Yeah. So and this is one I know just a little bit about, but the privatizing of prisons, that, I mean, that's big business. So it's $1 billion industry.
Yes, big business. You have, I used to work in there, it's called Unicor. And Unicor is where we was making the military, and give a good example. In United States Penitentiary, Atlanta, Georgia, in the 90s, I was making camouflage pants. We make them from scratch, with all the material, making camouflage pants. Then they were doing mail bags, and they was making mattresses that you lay on. We had one area that make mattresses. And when I went to Edgefield, South Carolina in 2002, I'm gonna say 1999, I went to Edgefield, South Carolina. I was making Army jackets, Air Force shirts, Navy shirts. When I left there in 2002, I went to United States Penitentiary, Lee County, Virginia. I was making Army jackets then. Army jackets, and they was making other materials well. And you make some clothes. Now they make parts for military equipment. They make all type of stuff. And so it's a multi-billion-dollar business. Multi-billion-dollar. You got cheap labor. I was making $1, the highest you can make $1.15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was making an hour when I was literally learn how to sew and everything, make clothes. I learned how to make shirts and all. And so it's cheap labor, and that's what it's based on now.
Yeah, I heard, I don't know, how true that it is, but one of the biggest lobbies for opposing legalizing marijuana is tied to the privatized prisons. I don't know if that's true. I don't even know if we can check that. But like, if you look at like how much money a company would make off of an inmate,
yes.
Why would you want to get rid of that business stream?
They wouldn't want to get rid of it. If you do a regular college degree, you can get a regular college, 4-year college degree, just a simple college degree, for under $20,000, a 4-year degree. Okay, it take $30,000 to $40,000 to house each person in the federal system a year. Wow. So you more profitable to be in the prison system than you are to go to school.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's not by coincidence, it's by design. In fact, in California, it's up to $50,000 to house an inmate for 1 year. So this is not by no coincidence, it's by design of how it's set up and established.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you look at it, when you start digging around in it, you start to see like, oh, I understand. This isn't a black and white thing as far as being, clear cut. There's so many different benefits that people would get to do this.
And in society, people are more concerned. They so tied down with their own life, whether they struggling or whatever, that they don't have time to focus on what's going on behind them walls. Yeah. They don't have time to try to say, well, what this law is. Mm-hmm. That's not even on their agenda.
I think
so once you get in there and get behind those walls, it's like, excuse my language, the Roach Motel. You check in, but you ain't checking out.
Yeah, I think probably by design too. It almost seems like even when you watch the news or, you watch all this stuff on the Ukraine right now, but our border to the north and south is in virtual chaos. And it's like, hey, keep watching over here, but don't pay any attention to the real stuff.
That's it. It's like a magician. Throw something there. You over there all the time, but right here in the midst is you missing everything that's really going on amongst you.
Yeah. So how do you think about today? Like, just let's say, at that at-risk age, that early teens getting into middle teens to adulthood, what's your advice for people? Like some people say, well, go to school or stay away from the internet, whatever it is. What do you think about where we're going in terms of producing, a healthier, children and, turning into adults?
Well, social media, when I went in, I have a joking term that I say, when I went in with Sanford and Son. When I come out with the Jetsons. Everything is so advanced in this technology. See, technology, it has its benefit, but it also has its down. And right now, social media and the technology, it has practically spoiled and ruined young people. How I grew up, and as a young child, children don't even experience that today. You have different types of games that's made where you got children playing games where they're doing robberies, And that's condition. A child's mind is still somewhat pliant. So if you can put a vision or an idea in his head, it's no different than language. When you hear even rap or you hear this, people try to emulate what they see and what they hear. Because if you don't have a vision, somebody will give you a vision.
Yeah.
And that's what the people the children are missing today. They being guided by what they are associating themselves with on social media, what they've been associating themselves with the circumstances in their life that's really surround them. So it's almost like you outnumber. Is society, the community or the streets have more influence than you can ever have because of the circumstances that people are having to endure. And so the children are actually being conducive to their environment. And their environment is guiding and shaping them by what they see and what they hear. So it's almost practically, if you don't separate your child from what they actually can watch and see, you practically don't have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know growing up, like, so when did you graduate from high school? Like, what was your
1986.
Okay. So I was 87. So,
Yes.
and that time, there was glorification around like Scarface and, Miami Vice and, kids having raging keg parties and, all kinds of crazy stuff, which, that's how we grew up in high school. And it was almost glorified at that point, it was what you could get away with, but it was still kind of fun ish.
Yes.
And then now I don't even know what to think now. Like what's
well, I would look at it like a lot of times, like with us back in them days, we would do things more privately. Now the children, there's no shame in it. So it's like God said, what's done in the dark, I bring it to the light.
Yeah.
So now what we hid to do in the dark, the children that they don't have no shame. They do it in the open. So, so it's a different day and a different time. With me, even coming out, I had to adjust to a whole lot coming out, not that I couldn't function, but just the technology and then too, the people. The people are so divided, and it's so much that I'm looking at like, wow, we got along better in prison than people out here. We had more unity in prison,
right,
than people in society, and so it's a big difference. In prison, a person look at prison like if they haven't been there, they'll look at, oh, he locked. What goes on in society goes on in prison too. Nothing, everything. You got corrupt officers, you got officers that people sell drugs in prison. People, have girlfriends in prison or boyfriends. That same thing goes on. You drink, you make wine in prison. They get killed in prison. So it's the same thing. It's just like somewhat like just a little on the mediocrity of a smaller scale of what goes on in there is the same thing that goes on out here. You just don't have it's open while you in there. You got more control. You're under more control than in society.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess when you get in there, if that's the case and there's no, redirection, of course, recidivism would be high. And
it is. I believe within the first 3 years, recidivism is nearly 70% of somebody violating or going back within the first 3 years of a person's incarceration or getting out of being released from prison.
Yeah. Wow.
Because it's aware. It's not designed to rehabilitate. Right. You have to choose to do that yourself.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It goes back to that. Back to you had to do that yourself.
So when you glorify things like that, like I just spoke about, and then you add to it, the 1 to 100 change from cocaine to crack cocaine, you have a huge funnel, and of course we're in this situation that we're in now. It's crazy now when I never even thought of this other than, I know that, how addictive, all that kind of stuff from my standpoint. And I look at the opioid crisis now, which I've find ironic on both accounts is that this is stuff that, the medical association or that pharmaceutical industry is responsible for putting this stuff out there into our public, and we're penalizing people for it.
And that, yes, and now let me show you the difference with those two terms. Like with crack cocaine, they called it the war on drugs. But with the opioid crisis, they call it a health crisis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the different health crisis, meaning we ain't just gonna lock you up like this. But with the war on drugs, with us, they just went to war on drugs and incarcerated us. And and that was a big thing that came out to expose. That was another reason they had to come forward. Congress, for instance, Congress been saying for the last 15 years that the crack cocaine target African Americans, and they won't right their wrong.
Yeah.
It's something when you are a lawmaker and you won't right your wrong.
Mm.
You keep putting a Band-Aid on it.
Right.
Why don't you make it 1-to-1? And you got others that will walk out of federal prison.
Yeah.
They choose not to right their wrong, but they hold themselves in a higher standard. And you won't right your wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, same thing. And now here we are with fentanyl.
Yes.
How many people is that killing all year long, and they're young kids?
Thousands upon thousands.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, sure is. I was going to ask something else and I just lost it.
It's just so fascinating. And the thing with this too is, like Renee said earlier, is, I mean, you're a product of a system where you said, essentially justice is blind, but it isn't real. Like it wasn't necessarily set up that way in your case. And then you made it to where now, justice is blind, because you came out and you looked at, like you said, the whole package. Like I'm thankful for it, because it changed me, and it made me into a man instead of a male.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, and you advocate that our society should be blind, but you went through all of this stuff because it wasn't. And I mean, it's fascinating to me that you come up with that.
And I tell people, you can tell I wasn't bitter, because if I was bitter, I couldn't develop myself, because that's an impediment. You can't sit around and be envy, jealous, hate, greed, arrogance, pride. These are impediments that impede a person's development and growth. And so none of that was a part of me. I looked at it as, that's how I can try to pay back, try to help someone else. And I wish the system would try to be like I was an example, because it wouldn't be a system any longer. But we know that's not going to happen.
Right.
But, I just, all I can do is, it say if you can get one, change one, is like you got the world. So I just still go after that one. Right. And then down the line, he might choose to better his life or something. So, I'm grateful. I don't find time to complain. And when people ask me, they say, how you doing? I say, I'm out of prison.
Every day is good.
I wasn't angry when I was in prison. So imagine me, God bless me to be in society. I'm out of prison. How do you think I'm doing? I'm grateful. I was grateful there because I had life. Now I'm out here in this society. I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, just listening to your timeline and when you were working with people in the quality of life class, did you build up somewhat of a platform there that was ready to be accessed when you decided to not be a single person and create a class action? Like, did you have was that helpful for you to have that behind you, where you knew other people, and not that you didn't know other people for 25 years, but you know what I'm saying? Like, did that help you build a platform to enlist other people getting involved in that?
Yeah, yes. It was my determination and really my faith in God of not worried about what someone could try to do to me or what you feel you could do to me, because I'm going to voice out and use pen and paper, because that's how I got in prison with indictment, pen and paper. Nobody didn't fuss with me saying, "Oh, we're gonna lock you." No, they put it on indictment. So I learned in life, put it on paper. Use a pen and paper and do the same thing. So, I learned how to actually use my voice and not with emotional outbursts, but talk in the most respectful manner and use pen and paper. And then solicit others to join me. But before I make those moves, I go to the right channels and say, okay, I don't want you to classify me as this. This is what I'm about to do. And then I get their approval because I'm going to do it anyway, because it's right to do it. Only thing, like I told them, you could do is really just send me to ADX. If that's what y'all want to do, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not telling people to overthrow the system. All I'm saying is bring awareness to what's going on. So, it definitely had that platform, and I didn't worry about it. I don't worry about what the possibility of what could happen. God is the author over there. If something's going to happen to you, then if he permitted, then it's going to happen. As long as you're striving to do what's right, and I strive to do what's right and use my voice as much as I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. And I think that your story just goes to show that, everybody, their voice matters. And sometimes I feel like people think like, it's just me. Like, can I really make a difference? And I think you're a great example to show people like, yeah, actually you can make a really big difference with your voice and who you are, and, going out there. Just like you were saying, of all of these young men who have, messaged you and how you've touched them by you being you, by the choices that you are choosing to make.
Listen, this is something I used to share with my children when they came to see me, and my wife now, because she's my daughter's mother. And I would share with them, I say, it's never where you're at. I say, everybody want to, like, I'm from the little small town, Camilla, Georgia. And I say, everybody want to run to these big cities. I say, but I'm going to take and make a business in that little small town and make it $1 million business. And I told my children the other day, I said, I have $1 million business now. They say, Daddy, you said that. I said, you say, I say, God helped me to show y'all. I didn't just tell you, because my sons told me, they say, Pop, we used to be like, man, how you going to do that? And we out here like that. And they literally used to laugh at Chris, say, Dad, you got big drink. And now they see that I literally have $1 million business.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And so it's show them the possibility. Never lose hope. Never lose hope in yourself. Keep that drive going. Whether anybody believes in you or not, you believe in yourself first and foremost. And others will jump on after they see your success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, be the example.
Yeah.
So, Stet, do you? I mean, I don't know if seems like that's your personality. Like prior to, you getting in trouble young, did you aspire to that? Like, I want to kick butt. I want to have a big business, and like.
Well, prior to me being incarcerated, hear what the police said, the agent said about me when they got me. They considered me a person, they said, like Robin Hood. I did a lot for families. I always took care of people, not just my family. I did so much that they knew they couldn't convict me in the area I was in. Because even though I was a drug dealer, I was not the drug dealer going around shooting people, going around doing this. I was selling drugs with destroy life. But I did so much for people. And I had that generous heart back then, but I was doing things illegal. Okay, today I do it legal, and I'm doing the same thing. In fact, I was doing it in prison. And I was doing the same thing. So that's been my childhood. That's been my life. I just chose to stray away when I went to selling drugs. But the character of me as a young person was there. I just had the little taint of going in the drug business and running around with so many women. All that needed to be polished up with me, and prison helped me to polish that up.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you going back into the communities now and just showing the young men another way. And I recently listened to a podcast with Hawk Newsome, who's very much into rebuilding the Black community. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know much about him unless you watch like the legacy media, which you don't get a clear picture of who he is. But he said, when I listened to it, I wrote it down. I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes. And he had said, I want to go into one hood at a time, creating healing centers in the spirit of empowerment. And, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of like what you're saying. And I think that like
Yeah.
voices like yours and like Hawk wanting to go in and let the young men know and young children know, like you actually can, like you had natural abilities and it just wasn't channeled in the right way because maybe you didn't have the right
Yeah,
mentor
the
or
wrong
somebody,
vehicle.
yeah, the wrong vehicle to do that. And
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful now that you can go out there and say like, here's another way, here's a vehicle,
Yeah.
and this is how you can be.
Yes, ma'am. Definitely. You know, all they need is to see hope, see example in front of them. You know, words amount to nothing if it's not followed by actions.
Mhm.
Actions, unspoken words. So, you know, I don't run around saying this. Like when I even do certain things of contributing to people funerals or helping families, I always tell them don't mention my name. They don't have to talk about it. Don't, you know, I'm doing this. You don't have to share this with no one. This is between me, you, and God.
Mhm.
You know, so and cause word actions are unspoken words, you know, and that's what I live by. You know, be an example, be the example that you want to bring, be the change that you want to see.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You want to see a change, be the example to be the first one to change to that status.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that being said, I think that's a good point to bring up. You have your new life, your program that you're doing, or your is it a podcast?
Yes, I have well, I have a podcast, but I haven't been on it as much because I got tied down with my business of getting it together and all. And so I go on different people shows and everything, but my podcast in general, I put it on hold because my business was I had to catch up with some things, and right now it's operating itself this year, you know, and that was the focal point. I had to focus more on that because I was stretching myself too thin,
Mhm.
you know, and so this year, God willing, I have my podcast out, and but I'm still going on different people shows. I'm still going to schools and speak and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's awesome. Well,
Got to get your message out for
you
sure.
are extraordinary. You really are. I mean, I didn't know the whole story, but I knew there was an extraordinary story, an extraordinary man that you are. So it's
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
I think, you know, for me, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, you know, all the disparity, all that is, you know, the things that need to be addressed. But I think the theme of it is one that people are searching for. And it's why we do our podcast, really.
Yeah.
What the inspiration was there's ordinary people that have extraordinary stories. And most people don't realize that they're the person that we're talking about. Like everyone is extraordinary on some level. And
Yes.
you certainly are in there. And, you know, you are an example of, it doesn't matter how bad or difficult or challenging it gets, you can literally do whatever you want, which you
That's right.
have. Is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I say let's. You have anything else? I was do the podcast
I can go
questions.
for like 3 more hours, but we'll have to go out to lunch or dinner or something
Yeah.
and continue it. But yeah, I agree.
All right, we'll go to our first question that we always ask our guests on the podcast, and it's, if you could have dinner with anyone, who would it be, and what would you want to discuss? And this person could still be alive; they could have passed away, celebrity, or anybody.
It will be my mom.
Mm.
I got to see my mom literally 3 times prior to her passing in 2002, October the 17th. And it was a shock. And it will be to get that chance to see my mom because she grieved herself to death because I couldn't come home. You know, it was taking her down. And it would be to have that one dinner with my mom.
Yeah, I'm sure for her to be able to see you, who you are right now.
Yes, ma'am.
She's smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what, here's the next question is, what continues to give you or restores your faith in humanity?
That as long as you can see one person, that individual shows the potential in every human being. You know, you just strive to be that light that you want to see. And long as you strive to be that light, somebody you catch an attention because somebody's always watching you. So you never give up hope in human beings, because hope was not given up in me, so I hope and pray to God that I change lives as people continue to watch me. So that's all you can do, is just never give up hope on individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. The last question is, what still amazes you?
What still amazes me? God let me out of prison.
Yes.
I'm home and I'm home, and then even when I try to tell people that President Trump, that's all he did it, I'm not saying why he did it. I'm saying he done it though.
Right.
Say one thing about President Trump, I say I don't get caught up in the politics. I say he didn't say what he was gonna do for the prison system. I say you have other candidates that said what they would do, they didn't do it. I say he didn't say what he was gonna do, but he done it. I say, so that's what matters. You want to find an excuse where, oh, he a racist. I say, well, one thing about it, they didn't go to talk about President Trump was a racist till he got in the White House and got to run. And I say, but the media is, like he say, fake news. They gonna control everything. They condition people's mind to believe what they want them to believe, and you gonna fall right for it. Me, I'm grateful to God. So I'm making it clear on why I'm grateful to God and who he had to be in there to free me. So that I'm still amazed that people still don't want to accept, even when you bring it and you telling them, they still want to make excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just amazing. You're amazing. And I always say, like, you restore or continue to restore hope in humanity. Like, so your story, who you are, you faced obstacle after obstacle, and you're sitting here smiling. You got like a sparkle, a light coming out of your eyes. I love that. We need more and more of that. So
Yeah.
I thank you.
Absolutely.
I thank y'all for this time and opportunity.
Yeah. Well, it was great to spend that time with you. We look forward to some more with you.
Anytime. You can call me anytime and I'm here.
Right on.